Alright, hey guys, just nuking again. So we apparently suck, and we messed up quite a few times on this level and the one after it. So we decided to bring the difficulty down so we can actually have a discussion as opposed to like focusing so much on the game.
It's becoming too much of a chore with that with the special agent. So
Yeah, yeah. Apparently we're not special enough.
yeah,
Oh, can you see me? Okay, so. But yeah, so moving right along with our conversation, kind of want to talk about because Perfect Dark originally came out on the Nintendo 64, and then this is a higher definition, remake of it. And basically, I want to talk about high definition re-releases that've been throughout the years, and ones that we should maybe have in the future. So yeah, Perfect Dark.
oh god, Perfect Dark is obviously a prime example. Now, if you know anything about the old graphics, that it's much better improved. So it's still pretty similar some of the structures because while they couldn't impact too much without redoing the structure, because they're redoing the whole thing. So a lot of the features seem the same. They just seem a lot more finely tuned.
The frame rate's so much better.
But at the same time, it does seem a little odd. Like, if we get to it or so, I might point it out again. But there's a certain point where you with the alien that we're about to rescue or so, where you're like cooperating with him, and I noticed at a certain point where you throw a box to him and he catches it, but the sound he's supposed to make, it comes out at a weird point. So like the audio and the video is a little out of sync, so it's a little bit weird at times.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's pretty. But visually, it's pretty good. I mean, turn around a sec so I can see your character. You can look at Joanna Dark's hair. Her hair was just one solid block.
Yeah.
It was just all one solid person. Her face and hair was all collided. You couldn't see any texture and like the emphasis of her different hair, of her short hair. So, but she always did have short hair. And one thing I remember about Velvet Dark is that her hair stuck out more and more emphasized, and they made it more stylized than this. So
yeah, I think her face looks a little different too.
yeah, as I think otherwise the face was the same as Joanna Dark. So
Right.
so they wanted to emphasize that a bit too. It's funny with the doctor coming rolling out. And
rolling out. Use my senses.
Because yeah. Now I never played it, but you have played Beyond Good and Evil. You had it originally from when it came out the first time, and you tried a bit of the trial though, which you didn't buy since you already had it. But,
right. And yeah, I mean the trial was pretty good. I'm kind of more disappointed that they haven't made a sequel to it yet. But the HD version was pretty cool in the fact that they made the water look like water as opposed to in the original game it was kind of just like this blue stuff that represented water that you kind of floated on. And I don't know, it was just it looked cool. I didn't download it because I already had the game. I didn't want to pay another $15 for a game that I already owned. So yeah, so I mean, Beyond Good and Evil, it was just one of those games that like really stuck out with me. It's just crazy how like it was just the standalone game came out of nowhere. Came out on the Xbox. It was weird. It was a very mature game, but the characters in it were very cartoony. Yeah, it was a cartoony game that was a really serious theme to it. So it was hard to fall into a niche, and I think that's what the problem was. Like it was just like I'm like, oh my god, this is a really deep, crazy game, but then at the same time, it's it's like you got spaceships flying around and the animations were weird.
Not like mature content, but like just something that you wouldn't expect to like a kid that attracted that cutesy stuff to really get or so. Not like that it's supposed to be too old for them or so, but it's just that the content they just wouldn't. It would be way over their head or something.
Right. And, and it was kind of similar to Jet Force Gemini. It's the same thing, and it's like very mature thing with blood and guts everywhere, but it had teddy bears and stuff, and it's like very animated and stuff like
But more so on like the idea that mature content looks all cutesy. I mean, one of my favorite games from the N64 days was they did reboot on the original Xbox. I can't say Xbox One now because the original Xbox was Conker's Bad Fur Day. That was the original N64. So they re-released it to go with the online component of the new Xbox, which just implemented the Xbox Live at that point. So they added that in for the online component, and they rebooted the game and had the graphics all redefined, and they released it as Conker Live and Reloaded. Live because it's on Xbox Live, the new feature, and also Reloaded that it had the original game in there, although with better graphics, and then they had this whole added aspect to the multiplayer, which was a feature in the original game, but I think they added more of a story to it, just like more with the teddies or so. And although I haven't got the chance to play the reboot, I've gotten to see some footage of it and see how it compares, and seeing even how like they changed the teddies or so. Since that became such an aspect of the multiplayer, the squirrels versus the teddies in the game, the teddies looked a little weird. I mean, in the original game they were all shitty-looking teddies or so, that like stuffed bears or so. But when I see them in the remake, they look like actual bears or so. Like they weren't actual teddy bears; they were just actually bears, like just a race of beings or so. That weren't, as the game sort of emphasized, that they were a created bunch of robotic teddy bears to to take out all the squirrels and whatnot in the whole little. What's the Saving Private Ryan homage. And that was one of the things I really liked about it, is that it had a lot of mature content. Yeah. It was like parodies off a lot of even mature like movies or so, like The Matrix and Saving Private Ryan and Aliens or so, something that's not for kids or so. But even so, the language was amped up, and it was meant to be something that was meant to be something that's not for kids, but it looked like a kiddie game. So that was just the irony of the whole thing that made it so much fun. So, but that was. I just had so much fun with it, and I'm still looking around to see if I can find it for the original Xbox, and I'll just be able to plug it into my 360 just to play it again, because I miss it so much, and I wish that Microsoft would re-release it as an arcade or so. I would pay for that in a heartbeat.
But especially with the rare combination. Yeah, the
rares. Since they also put out Banjo-Kazooie, they didn't release it in HD or anything, but they re-released it or so on the Xbox 360, a classic game, and they also even put this and redid the graphics and everything. So I would expect them to do something like this, but you just don't know what's going to happen with that. It would be nice though. So yeah, I'm still in search for that, and hopefully they'll just put it on live one of these days.
Yeah.
There's the alien, and one thing I thought was weird when they did the alien. I mean, he looks better tuned. You can see the skin texture on him a bit better, but the eyes, that always bothered me. I mean,
you know what? Looking at him now, he reminds me of the aliens from Independence Day.
You're right. The eyes are kind of like those kind of eyes, but the whole image. I remember back in that day, it was like this image of Elvis, as you come to know him. That was like the new image that was coming out about aliens or so. It was always like these green men with those eyes like that, the big heads and the skinny bodies.
Yeah, the grays, like
well, not just the grays, but I mean, I remember like you putting different colors on them or whatever. But but it was something different than the whole idea of the monsters in space or so. I mean, even like something versus like aliens or so, where they're like the xenomorphs were like terrible beasts or so that turn you into more aliens. But and also even like the old 50s invasion by Mars thingamajig, so even they turned away from that design or so. But I just remember around this time that I played the game, I remember seeing those images. Like I remember these old stuffed animals, well, stuffed aliens at that point at the boardwalk, where they were similar to that design of the alien here. But yeah, it's just I find it interesting. It came out at one point. So.
You're the only one who can fly to this city.
You stay at 1, I'll stay at 1.
Okay. I'm like, I remember, I'm supposed to hit a button.
Yeah. You hit 1, then I hit 1, then it starts. I'm just gonna wait for the cinematic to play out. It's like the music starts up. Stay there. There it is. The other one. Get back there. I'll do it.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh man, I remember. So it's funny with this one. There's also that hover bike way of going out.
Yeah.
I remember doing that, and I usually pick that one just to.
Yeah, that was the first way I did because I didn't know how to do it. I'm like sitting there watching the cinematic unfold. But we learned that short version because you want to get invincibility, and the way to do that is to dash through this on agent, or no less, or so. To do that quickly, and so that's the way you have to do it. Otherwise, there's no way to do it unless you knew how to do it that quick way, where you kind of like glitch it in a way that where you would get it on the ship with Elvis, even though he would go get the controls, but you would do it quickly enough that it would just make you go up with the ship anyway. It was a little weird, but still it worked. And